Raven Wild. Written by Caitlin Spice, Adam Reynolds and Chaz Harris. Illustrated by Christine Luiten and Bo Moore. Once upon a time there was a far-off land of old, with creatures of all kinds that a magic gem controlled. The jewel was in a temple, through a jungle thick and green, in the north, beyond a wall where few had ever been. The cliff towns of the south is where our story must begin, as we meet a hawk, a raven, and a loyal friend called Finn. In the realm of Nemalia, in a small southern village, there lived a reckless young boy named Hawk, who loved exploring and spending time outdoors. Hawk had grown up unsure of who he was, and his parents were worried about why their son seemed so troubled. The only time that Hawk felt at ease was around his best friend Finn, who was kind, and the two of them shared an interest in nature, especially plants. When Hawk was old enough, his parents suggested that he could serve at the Crag, a giant rock wall built long ago to protect the southern lands from the dangerous creatures beyond. Crossing the crag was forbidden, and joining the guard was a sacred duty. Hawk's parents hoped he would find his true self there, and Hawk believed it could hold the key to his happiness. Hawk's training would take several years and required him to leave home behind. On the day Hawk left at the edge of the village, Finn was waiting. He gave Hawk a wooden necklace carved in the shape of a bird. "It was meant to be a hawk, but it's more like a raven," Finn confessed. Hawk hugged Finn tightly and waved his parents farewell. In Hawk's first few months at the crag, guarding the wilderness beyond gave him great peace and clarity. While the training was hard, Hawk's thoughts of exploring north of the crag soon turned inwards to questioning his own identity. Although Hawk had grown up as a boy, he realized he needed to be a girl. Seeking help from a potion master, Hawk learned there were others who felt the same, and there was medicine that could help. Over time, Hawk's body began to change as Hawk transitioned from a young man to a young woman. When Hawk's training was complete, she returned home to her parents. However, they were not greeted by the son they remembered, but a young woman instead. Hawk explained that her name was now Raven. Raven's parents were relieved to see her so happy. They had missed her terribly and welcomed her home with open arms. The next morning, Raven made her way through the village market to tell Finn she was home. On her way, she saw a tall, angry man poking and shouting at a caged bird. Raven recognized the man as the infamous poacher, Victor Stryker. Raven noticed that the bird was injured and nursing its wing. She hatched a plan to free it. While Stryker's back was turned, she deftly lifted the cage with her spear and slipped away into the crowd. As she rushed around a corner, Raven collided with someone. It was Finn. Examining the somehow familiar face, Finn noticed the wooden carving of a bird on Raven's spear and asked her where she'd got it. Raven smiled shyly. "From you," she told Finn. "I'm Raven now." Finn beamed and hugged her tightly. "I always thought of you as a raven." However, their reunion was cut short when they heard Stryker's angry roar. Raven's theft had been discovered. "Run!" Raven urged Finn as Stryker and his gang charged around the corner. Raven led Finn down a side street, but it was a dead end. As Stryker's gang closed in, their only escape was a nearby ladder, so they climbed to the rooftop above. With no other way out, Raven hooked her spear over a long washing line and passed the birdcage to Finn. "Hold this and hold on," she said. As Finn held on for dear life, they glided over the street to safety. Finn led Raven to his house to treat the injured bird. As Finn opened the cage to inspect the damaged wing, he told Raven he had trained as a potion master while she was away. "Do you think it's broken?" said Raven. "Who are you asking?" an unfamiliar voice piped up. Finn and Raven gasped. The bird was talking. When Finn and Raven recovered from their shock, the bird introduced herself as Misty. She told them that Striker was planning to cross the crag and steal a precious gem with the power to control all creatures great and small. "You have to stop him," Misty pleaded. Horrified by what a poacher could do with that kind of power, Raven knew it was her duty to help. After Finn prepared an ointment to treat Misty's injured wing, they set off after Striker. When they reached the crag, Finn and Raven raced to the top of the wall, but it was too late. Striker's gang had carved a path of destruction and made it to the other side, leaving Raven's fellow guards unconscious. With no one else to stop Striker, Raven decided to pursue him. However, when Finn offered to go with her, she told him it was too dangerous and he should stay and treat the injured guards. With Misty to guide her, Raven would follow Striker alone. Descending the north side of the crag, Raven and Misty made their way across the desert wasteland. When Raven asked Misty about the dangerous creatures that lurked past the crag, Misty chuckled. "The only dangerous creature here is Striker." Misty told Raven that the animals were only vicious when controlled by the gem's power, but they had been set free long ago by a fearless queen who had hidden the gem away. Wading through a foul-smelling swamp, Raven and Misty passed a crumbling ruin engraved with images of the past. Misty then revealed a lesser-known secret. "Only a woman can wield the gem's power." When Raven asked what would happen if Striker got hold of it, Misty wasn't sure, but suspected it would not end well. Raven told Misty they must reach the gem and destroy it once and for all. As dusk approached, Raven and Misty stopped to pick some berries for supper. When they heard voices up ahead, Raven crept through the tall grass and spotted Striker and his gang. Striker fired his crossbow, narrowly missing a bird nearby, and Misty let out a frightened squeak. "Never mind. Those creatures are ours for the taking as soon as I get my hands on that gem," Striker declared gleefully. Suddenly, he whipped around, startled by a rustle in the bushes. A figure came stumbling into the clearing, and the muddy face of Finn appeared. "Seize him," Striker bellowed, as Finn turned to escape. But it was too late. He was surrounded. Whoosh! Suddenly, Raven swooped in on a vine and snatched Finn away from the grasp of Striker's gang. Watching Finn escape, Striker narrowed his eyes and gave a vicious grin. The hunt is on. After swinging them to safety, Raven hugged Finn and then frowned. "I told you it was too dangerous," she said. Finn pointed to the berries Raven had been collecting. "You're right, especially if you eat those." Raven insisted she could look after herself, but Finn explained the berries were poisonous and he knew which plants were safe. Reluctantly, Raven admitted Finn's expertise would prove useful. She agreed to let Finn join her on the condition that he stayed close and followed her lead. Striker and his gang blundered through the dense jungle in a hurry, tracking Finn and Raven's trail. With Misty still unable to fly, she gave directions from her perch on Raven's shoulder, and they ventured further north. As the sun set, Finn grew tired, and Raven suggested they seek shelter up one of the surrounding trees. Nestled in the broad branches, Raven admitted to Finn she was glad he had followed her. Finn picked a flower and tucked it behind Raven's ear. "You seem so different now, yet more like yourself," he said. Raven blushed and smiled. Raven removed her hairband and took Finn's hand in hers, placing the band around his wrist like a bracelet. Finn noted the special healing properties of the flowers around them, using one to enhance the potion he had made for Misty's wing. He then lay down beside Raven, gazing up at the stars. Raven told Finn what Misty had said about the gem and revealed her fears about whether it would recognize her as a woman. Finn laced his fingers through Raven's and reassured her that she had nothing to prove to him or to her family. "But I have to know for myself," Raven declared. When the morning jungle chatter woke them, Raven, Finn and Misty climbed down from the tree and forged on to the edge of the jungle, where they found the huge and ancient temple ruins. They had arrived. However, they were not alone. In the distance, Striker and his gang were crossing a rope bridge. They had found another way in. With Misty clinging to her shoulder, Raven raced across the nearest bridge to reach the entrance and hurried inside as Finn struggled to keep up. Without warning, a stone under Raven's feet sank into the floor. It was a trap. A wall of thick stone shot up behind Raven, separating her from Finn. When Raven called out to Finn, no reply came. And then she realized the walls were closing in on her. Raven frantically searched the advancing walls for a way out. At the far end of the narrowing passageway, through a hole in the wall, she saw a lever. Raven desperately reached for it with her spear, but it was no use. She took Misty off her shoulder and ushered the bird through the hole. "I can't fit, but you can. Save yourself," Raven said, defeated. "Don't give up hope. Let me try," Misty cried as she focused and spread her wings. Flapping as hard as she could, Misty swooped onto the lever. Finn's healing potion had worked. Misty's weight caused the lever to drop, and the door opened to let Raven out just in time. Although Raven was now safe, Finn was nowhere to be seen, and the only path ahead took them deeper into the temple. Raven and Striker emerged from the tunnels at the same time and reached the centre of the temple. There, at the top of an imposing stone staircase, sat the glittering gem they had been seeking. The pair locked eyes as Striker drew a large hunting knife and Raven stepped forward with her spear. Clashes rang out as their steel weapons met, and Striker and Raven fought fiercely, advancing up the staircase towards the gem. But then a familiar voice drew Raven's attention. "Raven!" Finn cried out as Striker's gang dragged him into the chamber. When Raven turned back to Striker, his crossbow was pointed at Finn. "One more step, and I'll pull the trigger." "Drop your weapon," he sneered. Raven knew in her heart the choice was simple, and her spear clattered to the floor. Grinning devilishly, Striker lunged towards the gem. "Don't touch it," Raven warned. "Only a woman can wield it." Striker roared with laughter and loomed over the gem with greed in his eyes. But as he grasped the precious stone, an intense flash of yellow light filled the chamber. The gem had turned him into a slug. Everyone gasped in shock at the transformation, and Striker slithered away through a nearby crack. Alone on the staircase now, Raven took a deep breath and climbed the final few steps. Raven faced the gem, bracing herself as her fingertips made contact. When nothing happened, Raven beamed and lifted the stone high above her head. Wielding its power, Raven called upon all the rats, bats and snakes inside the temple, and Striker's mob scattered in terror, the temple creatures chasing them into the jungle. With Striker and his followers defeated, Raven thanked the creatures for their help. Then she looked down at the gem, realizing that as long as it existed, the animals beyond the crag would never be safe. Raven picked up Striker's hunting knife and plunged it into the gem, destroying its power once and for all in an explosion of golden light. As the veil of light faded, Raven saw Finn approaching her, grinning proudly. "I never doubted who you were," he said softly. "Now you know it too." "I love you," Raven replied with a tearful smile. Finn stepped forward and softly brushed the tears from Raven's cheek. "That's lucky," he said, "because I love you too." Finn and Raven crossed the wall and made their way back home. With every passing day from then, they both felt less alone. They continued their adventures, both at home and far away. Forever they were happy, and their love grew every day. The end.